realistic in some way, like, you know, just something along those lines, so that you can, so you don't have this feeling of like, because of, you know, because of a thing I can already see that sucks, that this experience is going to be worse than what I'm hoping for.
So, somewhat related to this, another thing I see brought up all the time is being able to kind of choose what map you're doing and just being able to exert more elements of control. I saw a post in chat just there that was like the idea of being able to kind of erect a tower where you want it, rather. Like, is it this element of like being able to control, choose your maps a little bit more, or have a bit more influence on what's happening.
So I think having control over what content is there is good, but I don't know that I want to lose the fact that you still have the Atlas fundamentally where you like the actual map areas you get are random, and part of the reason for that is that it gives us a lot of opportunities to do interesting things with you know, like different maps can have different things that they drop and other stuff like that. Like there's a lot of that sort of stuff that's like quite nice. Like you can actually have a unique map be way more powerful if like it's kind of, you don't know exactly when you encounter it. So that kind of stuff is
all unique maps should be insane.
Nice.
It should all be crazy.
We want to do a lot more as well on the Atlas, like just more stuff to find. Like when we get to 040, I really want it to be that, like, you know, you really feel like there's just cool stuff in every map that you might be finding that's like you know, that's way more interesting. And as I said, that stuff, the problem is if you have full control over literally being able to run the same map every single time, like the same like base area, it means that you don't have the ability to say, okay, well this map can randomly have this thing that's just like really awesome that, you know, always drops a unique or something like that, because then you're just going to run that map over and over and over. So I still like some ability to have to find the good stuff in the Atlas, but we just need more control over what mechanics you can spawn there and that kind of stuff, and like not having the experience of like, if I didn't get this exact overlap, then I have this bad experience.
The mapping in games just kind of sucks right now.
Actually comes from as well, is not
they have to improve
some element of not having that control as well. So
that's what they're doing.
Maybe it is the case more of just keeping like juicing up that exploration aspect of it even more. Anyway, that's what it already felt like a big improvement with that last one, and we're getting the new maps and the new mechanics and things scattered in the zones as well. So it seems like there's a fair bit more going on.
The main point, like, we did what we could, 100%. And you know, 040 expect a lot more improvements there. But again, we focus more on everything else. There's a, you know, an insane amount of content there. You know, it's we wish Towers was in that list, but it will be. Don't worry. These things are coming. We're aware of the problems. We are aware, like 100%. You know, it was expected when we got to that section to see a bunch of.
And I think a lot of people are going to be getting a chance to experience some stuff they didn't experience because it came later in last league, and maybe they had tapped out before then. So there's a good bit of extra stuff to explore there, maybe with this one. We'll loop back around to endgame if people have more questions that they post and that we pull from the chat. But we'll move on to the Act 4 and the interludes, because that's a pretty big thing. Obviously, getting rid of Cruel was a priority. You wanted to do that as soon as possible. There's been this problem that you were laboring over for many months about how to do that, how to add Act 4 without having to add the rest of the acts all at once, or do some weird thing. You've come up with making more acts to solve the problem instead of
So there was certainly some skepticism when I first proposed this about like how can we possibly do that. But basically the main thing there was that like, okay, so the interludes are not exactly the same as an act in terms of like, you know, like each one of them is like, you know, a straight line, like you're going from here to here. There's no like, you know, like different, there's no complexity around the plot or anything. It's just like a single goal of like, you know, someone's telling you to do this, go deal with it. There's bosses along the way, you know, there's new areas along the way, but all of that stuff we can use in in-game as well. So that means we're not kind of wasting any of the art. So the only thing we're really wasting is like a kind of like a you know, a little bit of like storyline structure around it. But as I said, it's not nearly the same level of like narrative structure as what you get in like
it's
a
like
full
a D4 league.
And that's something that ultimately what we realize is to get from the end of Act 4 to the end game level, all you need is like 20 areas roughly to kind of to bridge that gap. And so that that I was like, you know what, like with like 20 areas, I reckon we can do it if we're like, you know, we're using a few mechanics from maps, we're taking some, you know, we're doing a lot of art reuse, that kind of stuff. Like we can find a way to make something pretty quick, and it won't necessarily hold up for like years and years, but it will certainly be good enough for you know, just like for a relatively short period of time. And by the time you get to that point anyway, like you're usually pretty fast as a character. You're like rushing through, you know, just to get to end game. So I think that that'll end up being like pretty damn good for the time being. Plus, you know, new bosses, new stuff to experience. Like, you know, in my opinion, it was a no-brainer to do it compared to some weird thing like having to repeat Act 1 and 2 again or something weird like that. Like that just wouldn't have been good. And we really wanted to get rid of Crawl. I mean, like we never wanted Crawl to exist, right? It existed as a compromise. So being able to get rid of it is obviously, you know, something we were very, very keen to do.
There was something. You know, you get to the Act 1 Crawl, and you're like, I've know all this content, you're ultra powerful, and that's a little bit feel good. And then you're like, doing all this again. You know, it's just like a little bit like, just, you know you can do it, you know at that point, you're like, just give me the end game. Like, you know, whereas when you're playing through, you know, the new acts, like, it feels, well, with Act 4 and the interlude, it feels just a lot more natural and, you know, still fun, and you're discovering stuff, and you know, it's not that just like, I just did this, like, you know, at least for fast players as well, they're gonna be like, oh my god, I just did this like a few hours ago. You know, it's like, just too short of a time. That's me. But one thing about Act 4 and the interlude, by the way, which I think is really cool, which is very different, and something, you know, you don't really appreciate until you play, is you get to Act 4 and you're like, okay, where do I go? Well, I have many places I can pick. I mean, Jonathan was talking about how, you know, their kind of interludes are kind of straight lines, but there's three of them. You can in any order. There's a choice immediately there, right?
You can do those in any order.
You can do them in any order.
You can do them in any order.
When you complete one or partially complete one, it levels up the other two. They always stay, you know, ahead. And they bridge the gaps. You can do them in whatever order you want.
It'll be interesting to see the speedrunning strategies, because like there's different bonuses available.
Like the spirit draft comes from one.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, where another might be more passive point heavy, and another might be more permanent bonus heavy, and another, you know, like, there's going to be all kinds of crazy stuff going on there. So you go in Act 4 where you've got full freedom of like choice of which island you want to sail to, and then you go into the interlude and you're like, which part would serve me best? And maybe the answer is do a couple areas of this part and then swap to another and do that one, and then, you know, like, who knows? Which is fine, because again, as you progress through them and defeat the bosses, the other ones will level up and keep up with the level. So you can do half of each, and then do the half of each again. You can do an area of each, and then, you know.
That's wild. I didn't realize the interludes were sandbox like that, because I was planning on asking about how the fact that Act 4 is like a sandbox for like a great portion of it there, and that's going to be super interesting from like racing and speedrunning perspective as to what people take. But also that does seem like it might help with the campaign slog, you know, the repetitiveness of it, if you can kind of do things in a different order each time. Is there some good reasons to do it in different orders as well? Like you mentioned, like differences in rewards, differences in challenges too, I imagine, for different builds?
Yeah, for sure. So, like the reward thing is like probably the main reason you'd change the order, depending on what's going to work best for your character right now. So yeah, each one has got stuff that you know, like we're taking all the different fixed bonuses. I think that actually fixed bonuses are different a little bit now, aren't they?
Spoiler,
than they were when they were called. Did you change what stats they were?
Yeah,
I thought you did.
The passive point number is the same.
Yeah.
The spirit is the same, but the other bonuses, we've kept, like, you know, we'll still have the resistances that you got before, but some of the other bonuses from, like, for example, Crawls, the snake in Act 3, I can't remember the name of these areas. We have internal names, the old snake chamber. The reward from that will be slightly different, because not all three of those options are available, and they're available in different ways. Some of it might be, some of it might not be, and some of it will be in Act 4, some of it might be in the interlude, you know. So it's kind of mix and match all over the place, but there's some pretty cool stuff in the interludes that, you know, that you've obviously got your permanent bonuses, you've got your skill points, you've got just like which bosses do I want to do first or last. That's all nice, but you have a little other things subtle. You know, like the first area of one of them, I'm gonna be as spoiler light as possible here, has a wandering vendor that sells, you know, guaranteed rare caster gear, and you can go and be like, I'm gonna go there, check that if I'm a caster, and then I'll go to the other two acts, because that might have like a straight up weapon upgrade. And then there's another in another act that sells a whole bunch of greater runes, and so you might be like, I need some runes, I'm going to go there, find that vendor, get some runes, and then go to another. And then one of them has, and you're going to have to find this for yourself, one of them has a nameless seer in it, and so go for it, find that. And I'm not going to tell you which.
So do you know in advance some of these rewards so that you can make this decision? Like maybe not those kind of secret ones, but...
I think it doesn't. Does it say it on the? Does it show it to you on the world map?
You generally see the icons on the world map up to the point your character and the NPCs could reasonably know about. So it depends on the act a little bit. In some cases, it's like no humans have been there, so you can't know until you've opened it, and then it will, or until you have been told about it or know about it or advanced the quest, and now you see all the icons. So some yes, some not, and but like it's gonna players are gonna share information pretty damn quickly. But yeah, it's actually quite fun having all this different choice and different axes, and we haven't had this level of like, sure, you've got Path of Exile 1 Act 2 is go left or go right, and you got a little bit of that in like Act 8, but you don't get this much like parallel things going on like this in a kind of interesting way. So it'll be, I suspect it'll actually last a little bit longer than we anticipate, given how we had to put this kind of 3-part thing together so quickly.
Last a bit longer in terms of like players finding it fresh and interesting.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Okay.
The all 3 interludes kind of appear on one world map, so you kind of got 3 parallel tracks you can see on one map.
Decision paralysis is going to set in.
I think a lot of people will just pick one just because it's the first one.
Yeah,
I bet that'll be the most common choice.
You'll see stats on that, I'm sure.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, 60% pick rate for the first option.
Yeah, probably.
Left to right's most likely.
It makes sense.
The order of the islands in Act 4 a little bit less predictable.
I get this.
One of those islands, there's four permanent bonuses kind of going on in one area, kind of thing. It's like a because. I'm not going to tell you which one.
Do you go into?
Someone will do it. Figure it out.
Make the progression guides.
There'll be less shit in the furthest toilet, right?
Builds too,
but wait, what if people thought that's what people think, and then they go to the first one?
Things fresh long term.
Yeah.
There's a good reason to do it differently. It doesn't just get kind of immediately solved.
Yeah.
So Act 4 was planned to have a new way of ascending, but that wasn't mentioned here. So it's not quite ready yet.
Didn't quite get time for it. It'll be coming a bit later. But you can there's still a quest to go to the place where that is happening. But and we added like a kind of another reward there, just for the time being.
Yeah.
But later on there'll be that. The amount of work required to make that trial just unfortunately wasn't quite compatible with making all of the other stuff we made. Probably if we hadn't made the interlude, we would have been able to do it. But I think the interlude was more important just to get rid of Cruel. So we ended up making that decision. But we'll get to it.
Thank goodness.
I'm
so stoked.
If it's what most of us imagine it's going to be, I can imagine where a lot of that work comes in. So
right.
You guys, is it something that you'd like to get ready for next week?
Well, I don't want to promise anything because at this point we're in the mode of like we'll cut stuff if we need to make the release happen. So I wouldn't want to promise anything, but that would be nice. We'll just have to see.
I guess the other question then is, do you think it'll be like different enough and appealing to people who don't necessarily want to ascend the other ways?
Well, it's certainly different than the other ones by a very significant margin. So I think that'll be interesting.
And what's the vision for how Ascendancy works long term then? So is it the idea that you ascend once in Act 2, once and then again in Act 3, and then again in Act 4?
I mean, you will be able to do it that way, but if you want to do other, that's a way to do it. But if you want to, if you like a certain trial better, doing it that way is also fine too.
It's just interesting because there's like not as much of a gap as there usually is between those first 6 months that way. Like it's quite rapid fire. So and then it would be a big gap until the end game, and you do your choice of the fourth one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we see that as fine. Like you kind of want to get your build locked in to some degree by the time you get to that sort of level.
I kind of like it. It's just different to how it's been done in the past before, right? Where we had, whereas like right at end game you did that third one. So it's interesting stuff. So a big part of this obviously is then continuing the campaign slog kind of discussion was just the speed of the campaign, how that tied in with difficulty, zone sizes, and things like that. You guys did a whole bunch of big changes a couple weeks into the last league where you reduced zone sizes.
So we did a bit of that. That's one of those things that's a bit hard to see exactly until you've played it a couple of times. So I like, for example, right now, like, you know, the first time you play through Act 4, I doubt you'll be worried about zone size. Second time, then it might then start to realize like what places are too big and what places aren't. So there'll probably be a little bit of adjustment to that even as we do the first couple of patches in 030 as well. Just because, like, as I said, it's actually a bit hard to appreciate until you've kind of played it a few times. But the sprint helps a lot. Like, sprint is a big deal as far as like changing how the game feels in this regard. So you know, if you're fast and you know how to use it well and that kind of stuff, you can motor quite a lot more than you would. It'll be interesting to sort of see how like how many people are using that all the time versus how many people are kind of just using it. You have, well, yeah. But the thing is, you're an experienced PoE player, right? Like you're gonna.
But like, there's a fun risk reward to using it that way, though. Like, if you are just using it to traverse or like backtrack or something because you go the wrong way or something like that, then it's pretty cruisy and it works well for that. But it also is a very powerful like combat tool. You can use it like. A boss is doing something, you can get further away than you could before.
For boss stuff, you can, although it is dangerous, right? Like,
I mean, if you screw it up, then you
yeah. But I think the thing that I find kind of interesting about it as well is that like you can skip monsters now more easily, and that means that if you are overpowered due to getting a good item drop or something like that, you can kind of like motor through a couple of areas a bit more, like, you know, sort of then catch up to the point where you sort of feel about right as far as the difficulty, and then keep going from there, like more specifically. So you've got that kind of tool at your disposal. Not something I'd expect like new players to do, or like players who kind of don't want to engage with that stuff. But if you're talking about like, you know, like the person who's playing through the campaign the fifth time, certainly that's an option that you've got that can kind of speed you through a little bit faster. So that's something as well that it kind of does, just because you are faster than basically everything. So you know, you can skip past them.
There were a bit of like, you know, good players, like knowledge players knew how to move a lot quicker. You know, there's a bunch of skills, you get animation cancelling, you got shield charge.
It's true. The speedrunners already have a way, but like no one really wants. Like, obviously, you don't want to be doing that all the time, right?
It was
like unless you're like really dedicated to speedrunning.
You watch Khan
niche, unintuitive, and whatnot.
Spam
so like, you know,
teleport attack.
There's a simpler way to now, you know, close the gap between the players who knew all of that and the ones who didn't, and which is great. And maybe a lot of those players are still using all of those tools even on top of this, and that's fine.
I actually wonder if like the sprinting is faster than like the shield charge, dodge roll, animation cancel shenanigans.
Haven't exactly done a race. I think it's close. I'm pretty sure it's relatively close.
Yeah, the difference there.
There's I know there's some passives in the deck side of the tree for like slightly increasing your speed while sprinting, and a few other different things while sprinting, like increasing your evasion while sprinting, and so you know, there's some of that going on as well. That maybe when you speak into all that, you have more of an advantage over those other skills. We'll see. You know,
actually buffed dodge roll a bit for the sprint too. Like you can turn a bit better for longer during the dodge roll.
You can. So that one was, man, I'll tell you what. So this is kind of inside baseball stuff, but sprint was like way harder to implement than you might expect. Like it seems like, oh, you just add a speed buff, but like getting it to be smooth and like feel right, and like all of the stuff around like the turning at the end and like all that stuff, that was really, really hard to do. Like there was like a programmer for a very long time just working on sprint issues. Like holy crap.
I relate to this.
So yeah, like it's one of those things that
Where would you like to fight?
like every little imperfection of it, so you do it so often, needs to be ironed out.
I'm looking forward to stacking move speed and dodge roll distance in Sanctums and using sprint. I use sprint in the Sanctum and I was testing earlier, and it's so fun doing some of the things with sprint. It's like we're like mega long dodge rolls into sprinting is gonna so fast.
Yeah, I mean, we've in general just improved mobility. We've improved, and even outside of that, it's like talking about, you know, sprint, slog, fast. Like there's more to it. There's you know, obviously dodge rolling has improved. The mercenary, like slow while reloading, but also something like Jonathan and I both just randomly did one day, just logged in on live. We played mercenary and we were both just like,
what happened?
What did we do? What has gone on here?
I believe
feels terrible.
It was the 020 change that related to like contact points or something. There was something like that I think broke it. So because the thing is, it wasn't actually feeling like how it felt before we released.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh crap, we need to fix this. Something went wrong drastically there. That one really improved it. But we also made a change where you're a little bit faster coming out of when you're using a skill while moving.
Yeah.
You're a little bit faster coming out on all classes. So that actually affects the Ranger and the Sork as well a little bit. It's not like at first it seems quite subtle, like but when you play it side by side, it actually makes quite a difference, even though it's a relatively subtle change. Like it worked as well. And then you've got things like with the block being faster, like you're just overall more mobile, with a lot of the stuff. Like I think it's helped a lot. But the nice thing is like we still didn't have to compromise on like making sure the combat still was right. So that's obviously been like a big worry, especially because there's so many other buffs and things for other character classes. Like there is definitely a concern that we've like overcooked, gone too far. Like things are, things are going to be too easy, and I'm a bit worried about it. But I think it should be okay. We just have to.
You mentioned like the way you've designed this, not meaning you didn't have to compromise on like combat and that, and that was a big hesitance for you. Like you really wanted combat to be not optional in the past. You were talking about before,
for sure,
and things like that. So why does it feel like the way you designed this lets you not compromise on that vision?
Because ultimately, the actual combat itself still works after trying it. Like, and generally speaking, like even though I may not necessarily agree with something, I'm still willing to try these things. So we tried it. It works. That's really it comes down to, right? So that as long as that's the case, then then I'm cool with it. I just want to make sure that we don't end up in a situation where we're just it's all just like. Even during the campaign, it's just one button, don't have to worry about anything, like there's no challenge anywhere, like that kind of stuff, because I just find that boring. I just don't enjoy it at all. Like I feel like you need to have some level of like actually, having to think once in a while, during a boss fight or something like that. So there just has to be a little bit of that left over. Sometimes it can be the situation.
This was a good compromise, 100%. It again, he spoke about how long it took for this programmer to work through it, let alone there's heaps of iterations with these kind of things, trying to keep things feel grounded, kinetic, realistic, that kind of stuff. So you're not just like, and animation wise as well, there's a whole bunch. So when you're taking a chance on a thing like that, and it feels like a compromise, and you're uneasy about it, I'm glad we did pull the trigger on this one and give it a go, because sometimes it is like knowing how much resources this is going to take. If this fails, it's a massive waste.
Because there was another one that was like hugely contentious, which was removing the limit of one per support gem. Was something that took a bit of convincing to even get people to want to try out.
When you
that was
that
definitely a worry.
The longest time.
The concern there is just that, isn't it just going to be that everyone's running the 5 same supports on every single thing? But I was kind of like the amount of, I think what we're losing over this is much worse than what we were gaining. It's something really important, and so I actually now that we've done that, I wouldn't have it any other way. I think it's really, really good change, and that one is, in my opinion, the most important change we're making in 0.3. I mean, obviously you got a bunch of content, but like in terms of like what single thing is going to affect gameplay the most, like in terms of character builds and like build variety, that change is a huge one. So
from one
really
NZ game dev to another.
I was skeptical when you showed me this change, because I was definitely in the camp of defending the decision of the one support limit for the logic of it making you think about how you build each skill differently, not just building every skill for damage, but rather like, okay, which of these damage dealing skills am I going to make more utility or do something else instead? But playing around with it feels like it kind of just lets you use it on 2 skills, like something like Fist of War, and that's just a really big improvement. Like that's a lot more fun, having 2 Fist of War skills than one. But like the skill design is nuanced enough, and the supports themselves are nuanced enough that you do still seem like you end up with a lot of variety.
It definitely works. Like it's funny because in the end, it feels like the concern that we had was more theoretical than it actually was real, and that's why it's really important to actually try these things. Like, and I would say that if the supports and skills were designed like how PoE 1 was, then you totally would have ended up in exactly the place that we were worried about. But because there's a lot more going on with the way the skills, or just like there's a lot more thought being put into like the exact ways the skills interact in PoE 2, you kind of end up being fine, and it just ends up being better. So I'm really glad we tried that one, because it's super important.
Yeah, and it seems like lineage supports take over the role of this one gem a bit more.
They do. So basically, right at the end, you've got the thing where you can only have one of each lineage support per character, but that's kind of like none of those are like. Okay, so you know. Something like multiple projectiles or martial tempo, like these things are super important to kind of make skills even viable at endgame, whereas the lineage supports don't have that same thing. So we effectively get to keep a little bit of that like interesting decision stuff, but only right at the end when you're kind of at the top end and you're thinking about like hyper optimizing specific stuff or like with interesting mechanics. So we still get to retain a little bit of that there.
It's definitely a huge buff though, like this change. Like I've been playing Warrior and I almost feel like saying the new Warrior because it's not any one specific thing. Like the support gem change, the sprinting change, the faster while blocking, being able to block everything. It was way more impactful than I expected.
Weapon swap, instant.
Weapon swap is huge.
That's like it's the sum of all these small individual things, and honestly, it was quite hard to design the live stream what we were showing for this reason because it's like it kind of ended up being just like a huge scatter shot of like all sorts of little things, and it's sort of hard to appreciate the sum of it all, like adding up to a much better experience. But I mean, obviously, there's like really big things like you've got the infusion stuff on the Sork, which is like like radically, visibly, obviously changing the class, but it's like when I'm making a case for like why is the Warrior better, it's kind of like you got a few new skills, you got like a few different mechanics, but like together it just kind of comes into something that's like way better than it was.
Yeah, I've spent a part of 2 days trying to put my finger on what it is exactly that is making that, because you were asking me like whether I'm worried that the Warrior is a bit too strong, and I'm like, I'm definitely a lot stronger, but I'm trying to figure out what it is exactly, and it's like a bit that, a bit this.
Everything.
Everything. Definitely feels like way more fluid, faster, smoother, chunkier all at the same time, because we've got more Fist of War skills going off. We like the instant weapon swap thing is huge as well. Like that seems like a pretty minor change, but all of a sudden you're not thinking about like there's no reason to not.
Right. There's no reason giving people, removing all the reasons why people wouldn't use combos is exactly the focus that we had for a lot of the stuff, right? It's like, what is preventing someone doing a combo here? What can we do to fix it? So you've got like the shock change where that's longer. You've got like the change to chill and that kind of stuff. And there was a whole like thing with, we never even talked about Ignite because there kind of wasn't room for it. But Ignite has got a whole different thing where it does now, where there's like every time you fail to ignite, it builds up flammability. That means your next ignite is more likely.
I saw that.
So there's like that. There's like a bunch of changes just all through like the places, just these little things that tweak stuff. One of the ones I know is actually really big is the thing with the curse and the what do you call them, the thing that lowers resistances. What the hell? Exposure. So exposures, right? Like it seems so tiny, like let's make it so that you don't have individual exposures for different elements, but it's like it actually changes the gameplay so significantly, because the moment that there's something that's going to add like 30% more damage in the case that it was before, that you don't have access to if you're going to use cross element. It's like you're never going to use cross element, right? Like you're never going to do it. So it's like really, really important to just remove every single barrier that's getting there, because
we merged we merged cast on shock, ignite, and freeze into single.
We did. So
gem.
there's no more cast on shock anymore. It's cast on ailment. That reason as well, right? Exactly, right? So literally we're like, let's find every single reason that's going to stop you from wanting to be able to use multi-element builds and actually try to improve that, right?
And guess what? You can still just play one element.
Is that going to ruin your flavor, right? Is that going to ruin the vibes?
Now, if you're doing multi-element, there's just no reason anymore.
If there's no downside. I don't know.
I was so stoked looking at what you were doing with the elementals, because it feels, for the first time, it actually is like an elemental. It's like there is mixing of the elements. It's cool. Because that's a fundamental game design thing with action RPGs, is that it always at some point makes sense to focus in on one very specific thing because of scaling. And but it seems like gone a long way towards solving that issue.
Well, I hope so, because we really tried to fix every single case we could see. Now there might be still some more, like you'll find there's some random mechanic that only works on one thing, and then people pick that and they're like, okay, we have to find and make sure that there's something that's going to attract you to every element.
You can kind of just do everything on anything.
And I mean, part of the upgrades to the individual ailments also really helps, because it's giving you another reason. Like it isn't just that you've removed the things that were preventing you from like, you want to both have a, I'm not specializing you because this mechanic works across different elements, but also you want to have like, this element has something that you're going to want to use with other elements, right? So like buffing shock, for example, we're like, okay, like, is there enough of a reason to weave lightning into a fire build, right? There wasn't enough of a reason. So by making shock better, it's like, well, then now there is a reason to use two things, but you also want the burn, and you also might want the chill, and like making sure that all that stuff is powerful enough to actually tempt you to actually do it.
Because like 8-second shock, and you even mentioned bigger magnitude shocks.
A number of the skills have a bunch of shock effect on
Yeah,
it.
so effectively, if a skill is supposed to be for shocking, then that skill will have magnitude on it, because the idea is that, like, you know, we really want to make sure that, you know, it actually works. But so that kind of stuff, it's the same with the fire skills that are intended for burning as well. Like, if something's intended for burning, it's going to have some kind of duration or something like that. So it's like you want to use that one, then you want to use something else while that's burning away and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I always want to do
I don't want arbitrary multipliers on my abilities.
Because, like,
it's just not enough. It just wasn't doing enough.
Yeah, you should just like use your main skill instead.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, like, even like
that can ruin a bunch of other
you read back in the
abilities.
support changes where it's like, okay, like, why would I want to use this other mechanic when I can't do this as fast, or I can't do it as powerful?
Seeing a
as I
lot
could
of
be doing
D3
on something else
vibes, honestly,
that I'm all in on.
in these
Like,
changes.
it's like that as well was contributing. It's like the whole lot was just
like
all,
a reduction in
bit of a mess
complexity.
in that way.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Ignite thing. I did want to clarify because I've got some questions about it in the chat. It builds up now. So, like, if you don't Ignite, you get 50% of the Ignite, and then the next failed Ignite will.
It's called flammability, since we no longer have the curse. Right. And as you build up more flammability on an enemy, the probability of an ignite occurring goes higher and higher and higher, and once the flammability is full, the ignite is deterministic. So if you miss an ignite, you at least contribute towards the next ignite being more likely, and eventually it is inevitable.
But one of the other amazing things we got, which was huge from our perspective, is that the way that ground effects work now for the fire is that it has to build to 100% flammability and then it sets them on fire, which means that if you use a level 1 flame ball, use a level 1 flame ball, it doesn't ignite shit anymore really easily. So that means we can actually do all that sort of stuff without it being a disaster.
You don't have to worry about people being full
Yeah, exactly. So if you're using a high level flame wall, it'll set on fire real quick. But if you real quick. But if you're using a low level one, then it takes forever, so you won't do it anymore.
Yeah, so it's finally a good solve for that.
I know it's been a bit of a disaster for a long time, but so now we can have ignite triggers and more supports around that and that kind of thing. And
let's be more liberal with the power you can give out to that sort of thing. And just the consistency has been a pain for any Ignite builds for a while now. So that's just going to be actually consistent now.
Yeah.
So that's really good news. And I saw that freeze was getting a lot better too. The same idea of like any freeze skill.
So the freeze skill, for that one we didn't, I believe we didn't change the sort of base freeze balance exactly. It was more that freezing skills just have more freeze going on. And then there was also the other change, which I guess we didn't even cover really, which is that anything that consumes, we'd use the word poise, but basically what that means is that anything that's like harder to apply to a boss, if the mechanic is harder to apply to a boss, then we want to increase the